What is going on, y'all? Welcome to the next episode of the Betterwallet Podcast. Today, we're going to hear from Leandra Peters, the homie. Leandra is a fellow online finance creator and the owner of Female in Finance. I wanted to bring Leandra on because I love her practical approach to investing and managing her money. She brings a very fun and straightforward approach to investing, not only on her social media, but also in her very informative blog. During the episode, you'll learn how to be financially prepared for any large expense, unpredictable expenses that you might have. Number one. Number two, you'll learn her thoughts on college and if she believes college is worth it currently. And then also at the end, you'll learn how to start investing and build passive wealth, even if you're new to investing. So I'm really looking forward to this episode. It's going to be extremely informative for you guys, and can't wait to jump in. Before we jump in, I wanted to thank everyone who took the time to rate the Betterwallet Podcast. The podcast is ranked in the top 25% on Buzzsprout and top 5% global and the top 5% globally on Listen Notes. We are trying to get to the top 1%. The goal is to help people invest their money. The goal is to help people manage their money. And the podcast is helping people to do that. So the best currency in the podcast world and the best way to help us get to that specific goal of helping people and getting the top 1% is if you leave a review. Please leave a review. I read all of them and it really, brightens up my day. So take a second, pause the podcast, go and leave a review. That will mean the world to me. With that, we're going to get into the episode and I cannot wait to see what comes out of it.
Welcome to the Betterwallet Podcast, a podcast where we talk to everyday people who have changed their lives through managing their money. We talk about their money journeys, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Welcome to the next episode of the Betterwallet Podcast. As you guys know, the Betterwallet Podcast is all about demystifying the topic of money and sharing powerful money stories from people who truly beat the odds. Today, we have the homie, the OG, Leandra Peters on the line from Female in Finance. If you don't know, Leandra is an online finance creator who has really become a good friend of mine over the years. We started our Instagram pages a couple years ago, and during the pandemic, a lot of us kind of worked together to grow our pages, grow our businesses. And we went from being complete strangers to business partners to being friends. In fact, we spent about 30 minutes before this actual recording just like catching up on life. So it's great to have people thousands of miles away that can relate to you when it comes to life, comes down to business, and a lot of other things. But today, we're going to talk about Leandra's financial journey, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the basics of personal finance so you can get into the market ASAP. Welcome, Leandra. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Mark. I'm stoked to be here with you.
Absolutely. So I told Leandra to send me a couple notes on her bio, like a guest bio. Normally people get it done 24 hours in advance. Leandra sent it over minutes before the podcast. So so that shows you what Leandra is all about, making sure her friends are not prepared for podcasts. But it's all good. Because what we mentioned up front is Leandra had it in the notes, and I'm just sharing it with you guys, is that I was like, what do you want to talk about during this podcast? She put down, let's just shoot the shit and talk finance and talk hoagies, which is an inside joke, but it shows you how cool of a person she really is. So in order for people to learn more about Leandra, let's start off with an icebreaker question. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready. I'm a little nervous. But
you're nervous? Okay, don't be nervous.
Okay.
Be nervous. You might have the answer to this question. If not, you can think about it for 3 seconds. I'll play some music and then you can answer it. All right.
Okay.
The question is, if you were immortal, which you may be, I'm not sure, what age would you stop aging and why?
Ooh, that's a cool question. I'm actually going to give a future age. So I'm 32, but I actually think 33 is my year. So
random.
They say 33 is your the year that you look when you're in heaven. Could be totally made up, but there's this thing that some random person on the internet, I believed him for sure, But like they told me like the way you look in heaven is like when you're 33. I guess because like supposedly Jesus was 33 when he died.
Oh,
So
yeah.
like
Yes.
that's like the age you look. And I feel like I'm at a time in my life where like I'm 33 in a month, and I'm like very curious. I like have this knowing that 33 is going to be epic. So I would like to be 33.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really interesting age. Mine would probably be now, actually. I'm 32. Surprise, surprise.
Okay.
Everyone thinks I'm 45. I'm 32. And it's a LeBron James effect going on here, where LeBron looked like he was 50 when he was 18, like reverse black don't crack. So it would be this age. I mean, this is the age where I feel like I'm young enough where I have the energy to do the things that I want, but I also have the wisdom and the knowledge of 32 years of just shit like that I had to learn from other people. And I feel like I'm truly just hitting my stride at this point. And one of my mentors a while ago told me that at a certain point you have to start. I played defense my entire life. And he mentioned, hey, like you went through a lot, you play a lot of defense your entire life. There's a time that you have to start playing offense. And I feel like I'm now starting to play offense and trying to find ways to help advance Better Wallet, the business, and like my clients that I didn't really think that way prior. It was always like me against the world, which it doesn't have to be that way. I still have a chip on my shoulder, but not as big as it used to be. So right around the same age, but it would be interesting if we brought on someone who was like 21. I wonder what year they would say. They'll probably say like, "Oh, this is great because I can now drink alcohol, 21."
Yeah.
But when you get older, you realize the importance of like everything you've gone through, all the learning moments and everything. So mine has nothing to do with the actual age or when I look my best or what have you. But it has all the like learning moments. Let's jump into financial stuff.
Okay.
So talk to me about your childhood. When did you first learn your first money tip?
Ooh, great question. So I learned about money very young because my mom actually came over as an immigrant from Israel, and that's where she decided to raise my brother and I. But I remember my first money tip being how to actually negotiate money. And the reason why is when my brother and I were very young, our family actually grew up pretty poor, and we would have weekend garage sales where we would walk to other people's garage sales, and my mom would say to them, hey, at the end of your garage sale, whatever you don't sell, if I can take it off your hands, I would love to do that for you so that you don't have to worry about trying to get rid of it. And so then at the end of the day, she would go and collect all of the stuff from other garage sales, and we would walk back with it, many trips walking back and forth, me, my brother, and my mom. And then my mom would have her own garage sale of everyone else's stuff. And some of ours too, and then some stuff that we would end up keeping, whether like my mom still has a set of dinner plates to this day that she got from someone from a garage sale.
That
And
sounds like the modern day, the folks on the internet talking about like selling pallets. Like that's what
yes,
that sounds like. You just have
or even
all
like
the leftover stuff.
or even like the modern day Facebook marketplace where you go and pick up something for free and then you list it to sell. There's a lot of
Mm,
people that do that.
arbitrage. Yeah.
So
I did that
yeah.
before. I would like go and grab like a sofa, which I didn't need and I didn't have the space for, and it would be completely free. And I would have like three sofas in my living room. And when my friends would come over, they're like, there's like a bunch of sofas here. Why are they? And I'm like, I'm trying to sell them. They're like, you're probably not going to sell them. Like, and I would make, maybe $50 to $100 each, but it wasn't worth the amount of hustle that went into just getting everything into the
Mhm.
apartment. But yeah, that was like one of the old day like side hustles I had, just selling
For real.
people's free shit.
Yeah. And so what my mom ended up doing was she just helped us negotiate selling stuff. So like we would put price tags like stickers and Sharpie in like $1.50. And if people wanted to like lower it to 50 cents, and when it was $1, I'd be like, how about 75? And
Wow.
so that's how my mom taught me probably my first money tip of like negotiation and counting money. And I was very young. So I remember being like 4 or 5.
Yeah, I'm like just thinking back to like even some of my ways that I learned about like business, I would say. And I would say it started when I would be shoveling walks for people. And that was like one of my first like side hustles as like a 12-year-old. And my dad used to tell me, like, were you able to collect all the money you could? And I'm like, my dad would always say things like that. I'm like, dude, what the hell are you talking about? And he was like, did you collect as much money as you could? I was like, I shoveled their walk. It cost $20. And that was it. Like I collected all 20. He was like, you could have gotten more money because you didn't upsell them. I'm like, what are you talking
Mm.
about? He's like, you could have put salt on their sidewalk. I'm sure they probably would have needed it. You could have bought a bag from, we had what we called like, I guess they have it around here called True Value. Go up to True Value, go get a bag of salt, and then put that down, and then charge him another $10 for the salt. And I'm like, this guy's a genius. Like, how come he's working at a warehouse? Like, we're giving him a wage job. Like, he could be a business owner. Hey, puppy. So we got puppies in the background. So, or only one puppy. Okay. So, yeah, it's interesting, like the things that you learn at a very young age from your parents regarding like money and like entrepreneurship that lend into what you do today. I'm kind of curious about your overall journey though. Like, so obviously you probably did really well in high school and you went off to college, right? Like, what was your story there?
Yeah, I went to high school and I honestly felt pressured to go to college as like being the
Mm,
first person in my family to go to college and graduate. And my brother's a year older than me, but he basically went to college for a year and realized this is not for me. This is not the route I want to take. And I thought that he was going to be the first one to graduate college. And I kind of took it as like a competitive thing, like, oh, I'm going to be the first to, I'm going to be the first to graduate now. And so I don't think I really did it for myself. I think I did it for other people, like being my family. I don't think I went to college for myself at all. And I'm very privileged in the fact that I got a scholarship to be able to go. But I think had I had not gotten that scholarship, I wouldn't have chosen college. I knew
mm,
that was important. Like we're taught, go to high school and get good grades so you can go to college, so that you can have a good job. But I always felt like I would be successful even without going to college, even though I had no idea what I wanted to really do. But I had some ideas and I knew like schooling was still important and it might have been the only way in, or at least a step in. So I went and it was a good experience. Would I do it again? No.
no.
I wouldn't know.
Let's unpack that. We have a little bit of time. Let's unpack that because I feel like I've been avoiding that question for the last couple episodes where people will say, I don't think college was worth it. A lot of it was like, hey, like I had a bunch of debt after college. I don't think it was worth
Mhm.
it. You already answered the question about having answered again. If you went back to college and you had to pay for it yourself, like no scholarship, no nothing, would you actually do it and why?
No, if I had to pay for college, I wouldn't have done it. And the reason being is I actually remember my senior year of high school. I had one of the best English teachers ever. She's like, I'm not going to teach you English this year. I'm going to teach you how to set yourself up for life. And she made us write over the entire year. She made us write a 20-page paper on what we wanted to do career-wise, how we would get there, and how much it would cost to get there. And
Mm,
at the time, I actually wanted to be an attorney. And so I wrote this 20-page paper of like law school and like college and how much it was going to cost. And then she made us also calculate like the interest rate of student loans and that it compounds daily. And like she made us figure out how much it was going to cost to go to school. And then she made us write out what are like the average starting salary rates and then knock off like 10% in case you start even lower than the average starting rate. I think it was 10%. And then figure out how long it would actually take us to pay off that student loan debt.
mhm.
And it made me realize, oh, no, I don't want to. I don't want to be
Yeah.
an attorney. I don't want to go to school for 8 years and have so much student loan debt. And of course, like your salary is hopefully increasing each year, but the hours that it would take to get there, I was like, that's
Mhm.
not for me. And so it
Yeah.
was a very life-changing moment for me.
Yeah. I've always wanted to be a doctor, like growing up. I don't know, like I just thought it was like a cool profession. Like I loved my doctor growing up. And he would just give me all types of praise. He was, oh, you're doing well academically is amazing. In my head, I just thought that he just basically just drew blood like anytime I needed to do a blood test. And like he would like check my weight and just chit chat with my mom. And that was like his job. And he got paid a bunch of money and he was called doctor, right? So like in my head, I was like, you didn't do anything. And he had horrible handwriting. So like, why don't I just become a doctor? But then I did that same exercise where I was like, okay, well, if I become a doctor, how long do I have to be in school? And then they're like, oh, like plus you have to do undergrad, then you have to go to med school, then after med school, then you have to be a resident, then after resident, and I'm like, I'm not doing all that. I want to live my life. So that killed that dream. And I'm like, what do I want to do? I like money. And I was like, maybe I just do business. And then next thing you know, I'm doing this. So it wasn't planned at all. But that's really interesting. So you thought about it and you're like, okay, well, I don't want to be an attorney. And you looked at the numbers and you're just like, okay, it wouldn't make any sense. Just to kind of comment on just my story real fast. So like, I always knew the math wouldn't actually add up, but the situation I was in at home, I knew that college was the path to actually get out of it. So a lot of times I get the question like, would you do college over again? I was like, if I was in Mount Union, Pennsylvania, where everyone lived below the poverty line and all my friends were entrepreneurs that didn't pay taxes, like I'm not going to call them the other word, but like I would definitely go to college. Like that was my means of getting out, even if it cost $100,000 to do so. But practically, I mean, if you come from like a situation where you don't have to deal with that, I don't think college right now is worth it. Like it's very expensive. The interest rates are wild, like as you mentioned, and you come out and you're happy if you get maybe $60,000 a year. And on top of like all the debt and everything. So, I mean, it really speaks to the issue that we have in the United States with the student loan crisis and, the debt that students have to take on. So once they fix that, then hopefully it's better. But I think an industry will end up disrupting that in the future. Like I think Google would probably come out with like a certification program if they don't have one already that would supersede any university from like pretty much any university is not like an Ivy League. I would recognize a certificate from Google more than some random college in Atlanta. You know what I mean? Like if you went to Atlanta Tech, which doesn't exist, I don't think, I wouldn't know what Atlanta Tech is, but I definitely would know Google University. And that probably would have been, they probably would have got the job because of that. So it's just an interesting topic that I like to bring up every so often. Let's talk about, I mean, you have all types of like financial success.
Thank you.
Real fast.
Okay.
Let's talk about some of your biggest challenges, because a lot of people who listen to the podcast are like, I am in debt. I want to start to invest. I need help. Help me now.
They're like, show me your struggles.
Right. Like you guys are all doing great things. Like talk to me about your struggles. So what was your number one financial struggle growing up? Or maybe even let's talk about like after college. After college, what was your number one financial struggle and how has that helped you today?
Yeah, my number one financial struggle is a very easy answer. I paralyzed myself in 2017, freak accident. I was playing with my dog, threw a tennis ball, and suddenly I lost feeling in my legs. And about 4 months after that, I started having other symptoms of like dizziness and slurring my speech and chronic fatigue and just like a bunch of weird symptoms. And I ended up having 13 different diagnoses at 27 years old. And I basically realized I needed to move states to get the care that I needed. And there was unfortunately like no help in San Diego that was helping. So I was still not walking and I was still not able to like go into work and take care of myself on my own. And so I flew up to Oregon where I was recommended to a doctor who had a whole team of doctors. So he was my sports medicine doctor for my back injury. And then he had a wife who was an ER, and then he had friends in neurology. And so he's like, you got to make the move if you want to get yourself out of this. And so I left everything behind and I moved to Oregon by myself. And at that point, I had drained every penny to my name. And I feel very blessed that I was working at the time for a company. I was working in corporate finance, and they continued to pay me, even though I was not working for them for 2 years. I would do some work, like I might be able to answer a couple emails or like they wanted to know information about one of my clients so that they could catch up with them and help them out. And so I would hop on the phone with them or email my bosses and say, hey, like, this is what he's looking for. This is his situation. And so I might be able to give them some direction. But besides that, I was very lucky to work for this company that still believed in me. And it was at a time where I didn't think I was even going to survive. And I was like, I told them that, I was like, I feel like you're paying me and I don't even think I'm going to make it. And they said, no, you're going to make it and you're going to come back and you're going to work here again and everything's going to be just fine. And they were right. But I did drain everything that I had to my name, but I was prepared. And I think that I was only prepared based on things that my mom taught me since I got my first job, which was to like start an emergency fund, which she didn't call it an emergency fund. She just said, start a savings account and put $50 of your paycheck in there. So when I'm like working a little surf shop job, like $50 a month goes in there since I'm 15 and up until 27. So I had 12 years of growing this savings account. I'm glad I did because it ultimately gave me the means to work with the doctors that I needed at the time. So that's probably like my biggest financial setback.
I knew of the story, but I didn't hear it in that much detail. That is wild. How long did that last? Like
so I moved back right before COVID started. So it was about 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's sheesh. And are you dealing with any issues from that now?
Yeah, so I still have, I mean, I can walk and do a lot of physical activities again, but I am limited to certain activities. So I can't do any like throwing or twisting or anything like that, but I can at least do most of the things that I still love to do. But I still struggle with pain. Like I still have like lower back pain from the injury and I still have a dislocated vertebrae. So I have to be very careful with activities that I choose to do. And then as far as the brain injury, I struggle with memory. So it's mostly like I don't have any photographic memory. So if I put my keys down, good luck finding where my keys are. My keys have like a little tile connected to it so that I can play a sound for I know where I put them. And I probably use it every day or every other day. But I lose things a lot because I don't know where I put them. And then sometimes it's in conversation too. Like I can forget details of conversations or dates to remember things. So like, for example, for this podcast, I had to set an alarm on my phone and I have to also write it in a planner in blue ink because blue ink makes you remember things better. So there's little things I have to do to like remind myself of certain things with people that are important.
Well, I'm happy you're here and I'm happy that I am blue in your calendar.
Yes.
To
Thank you.
I'll keep that in mind. Like next time you miss any of my meetings, I'll be like, wait, was I in blue? If I was in blue, then you just didn't show up.
You didn't care.
Yeah, I wasn't important. Okay, noted.
Yes.
It does speak to the importance of being financially prepared for anything. I mean, we talk all the time about like having an emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of all expenses. That should be an emergency fund. Put in a high yield savings account. I think sometimes people roll their eyes to it and they're like, oh, like I don't really need that. What could possibly happen? And like things happen. I mean, you could lose your job. You could be in the situation that you're in and, shit goes down and you need the money, especially medical stuff where we live in the United States where healthcare is incredibly important. And the worst possible time to realize that you need money for your health is when you have to get surgery, you have to get something done. So it's incredibly important to build an emergency fund, put even more in there if you feel like something could happen, and just always be prepared, guys. Always be prepared. So you went through that, you depleted all your money, you're on the other side of the health scare. When did you start investing and start building your wealth?
Well, I started investing at 22. So as soon as I finished college, I got a job at AT&T. Don't ever work there. But I started my job at AT&T and my mom said, put 15% of your paycheck into your 401k. I was like, I don't know what this 401k is, but sure, yeah, I'll do it. My mom was always right. I was like, she's never wrong. She's always right. So sure, I'll put 15% of my paycheck in there. And then I started learning more about finance when I started my corporate finance job, which was 2 years after that. And that's when I started learning even more about investing, like 401ks, IRAs, brokerage accounts. And from there, I worked in corporate finance for 7 years and then started teaching personal finance. But I've been investing essentially for a decade.
Wow.
But I would say I didn't know what I was doing until maybe like 7, 8 years ago. So it was like the
Yeah.
first 2 years of investing. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just putting my money where my mom told me to.
Right. I love hearing stories like that because I think oftentimes when people see us online, they think that we're born knowing like future value calculations. Like that could be further from the truth. Like I personally didn't learn anything about investing until this is embarrassing, but until the day that I stepped on Vanguard's campus. I couldn't tell you beyond like what I had to know for the interview. I couldn't tell you how to put money into a mutual fund. I was just like, I was a kid from the hood. Like I didn't know. But eventually I had to learn from, talking to clients, from doing the exams I had to do. And then even from there, I didn't really know what the hell I was doing until I started doing it myself. The 401k, as you
Mhm.
mentioned, one of my mentors was just like, put money to your 401k. I'm like, why? Like retirement's not until like maybe like 40 years from now. What are you talking about, old guy? He's like, "Oh, trust me." And
Mhm.
what I know now and what you know now is a combination of us trying to learn just from reading books to experiences to what our parents told us early in life, let it be foundational or just, hey, put money into a savings account or like make sure you're investing. So if you're listening and you're just like, oh my God, like I feel like I'm so far behind, trust the process, try to find ways to learn little by little, even if it's like one thing, one concept, go to YouTube and like try to break it down. Like, what is a mutual fund? What's an ETF? Whatever. And then next thing you know, you'll be in a position where you're teaching other people how to do the same thing, like Leandra has been able to do with so many other people, and Leandra's mom was able to do with her. So I think that's incredibly important. For any of the listeners on the line who are like, I get it, I should be investing. How do I start? How would you describe, like, what 3 steps would you take if
Mhm.
you were a new investor that just wants to get into the market?
Well, the first thing I would do is I'm actually writing a blog post on this. So it's interesting you're asking this because I'm dropping the blog post in 11 days, but it's literally called How Do I Start Investing? And
Mm,
the first 2 things before I give you like the steps is to make sure that you have your financial ducks in a row. And
mhm,
so by that, I mean, you have to be free of high interest debt or else you're pedaling backwards. So I look at high interest debt as like 5 to 6%. Get rid of it before you start investing. If you have like a 401k and your company is offering a match, like always take advantage of that match. The second thing is to make sure you have a very healthy emergency fund. I think if you don't have an emergency fund and you're investing, you can be in a situation like what happened to me, where it's like, I'm healthy, I'm young, nothing's going to happen. And then everything happens. And if you don't
mm,
have that emergency fund, that's your first class ticket to debt. And
yeah,
so it's important to have that emergency fund in place. When it comes to actually getting started with investing, if it were me, I would probably say to read a couple books. So, like, I love the book I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit. He blocked me. It's fine, but I still promote his book.
what the hell would you do?
Dude, I don't even know. I love him, but he doesn't like me apparently.
Oh my
Or it
god.
could be like his team or something. I don't know. It's fine.
It was an
But
accident.
or maybe it was an accident. I don't know. But I would definitely recommend reading his book because I think it's broken down in a way where if you aren't a very good reader or you don't like to read, it's very easy to read.
Mm,
And I think a book past that I really liked was Nick Majuli's book called Just Keep Buying, another good book on investing. And he gives like a lot of tips in there that I think are super helpful to everyone. And from there, it would actually be, I would say, to take a course. Like these finance creators like you, Mark, and Delianne, and Chloe, and Amanda, and Katie, and just all these people that have like really amazing courses, like they're guiding you. I feel like you guys are literally providing something that is hand holding them into
mhm.
investing. And so like if you feel scared to do it by yourself, after you've like read a little bit or watched some videos on YouTube, which you also have to be like a little bit weary of like who you're listening to, but these courses from like you and other people in the finance space, whether they want to DM me or DM you and ask like what kind of course they can take, I feel like we'll guide you to the right course to take to
Yeah,
help get you there to start investing. Like these courses are amazing. It's like more than what we'll learn in school. So
yeah, you're totally right. I mean, if I could throw away my economics degree and get my $50,000 of money back and
mhm.
take a course quick plug for the Financially Bulletproof Investing course. You'll learn everything that you would need to know about managing your money. Like the foundation that we're talking about, paying off that debt, pay off $80,000 of debt, up until like investing, the benefits that you would get at your employer, not just your 401k, but everything. It's all broken down inside, plus so much more. And, I created it because I thought to myself, man, like if I was 22 and I was first generation corporate, what the hell would I want to know about the money that I just made that could help me be in a better position in 10, 20, 30 years? And I put everything in there. I'm still building on top of it, but that's the whole goal, in addition to a lot of handholding. So if you're like, hey, books aren't for me, if YouTube videos aren't for me, consider a course. I mean, it could be mine, it could be others. Like, I don't care. I just want you to be rich. Like, I want you to learn how to be rich. That way we can help to kind of close the wealth gap that does exist, and we can live better lives for ourselves and for our future kids and future generations. So Leandra, we are 30 in. Where can the listeners, I'm very time sensitive on this. I don't want to hold people for too long. Where can people find you online?
On Instagram. You can find me at female.in.finance. If you see any scammers, I apologize. But you can find me there on Instagram. There's no other weird punctuation. And then my website, so www.femaleinfinance.com. You can join my newsletter. I send out an email once a week. So if you want to read everything weird that I have to write in there, you can sign up there.
She's a very weird writer, but it's very captivating, strangely.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll make sure all that's in the show notes, guys. Definitely check out the blog. It's very helpful, a lot of detail, a lot of great pictures as well. So if you're a visual learner like I am, I would say take a look at her page. She has a lot of, I feel like she's like rebelling against the reels. Like she's like, I'm still going to do my static image and they're going to still do really well. They are very, very helpful. And then, as I mentioned, the blog and the emails are all really good as well, just as resources, right? You want to curate a social media that gives you everything you need about finance in order for you to learn through what I call it knowledge osmosis. Like you're literally learning just by scrolling your feed, because you won't be learning anything from Kim Kardashian. So follow Leandra and stuff.
That's true.
That should be a bar. So Leandra, thank you for coming on. Thanks for coming on to the podcast. And I will talk to you guys a little bit later.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks for tuning in to the Betterwallet Podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you found any value, we'd appreciate a rating and review.